plan for tonight with back. What do you think? Right? I don't want to say that I'm like predictable, but I think you probably would be able to guess what this back day is looking like. And I got a couple comments that were asking for timestamps to really like break down each workout. So I think I'll probably add a little, if not like a little on-screen like image, like old Rich Piana style, where he just like explained what the whole workout was before it even happened, just describing what the lift is. And you know, the only reason I don't do that is because it's kind of not my approach, at least, you know, myself, to do a workout that's already been completely, you know, written out already. You know, it's more so coming into the gym and following like, I guess you could say my version of my ancestral tenets, where it's like how I go about the lift, you know. And maybe I'm just being closed-minded by not at least adding like a couple workouts a week where I let someone else or follow someone else's routine or plan, and you know, kind of see how it feels there. You know, because it's like, what if I do go in and my lats are like, maybe my lat is a little tense? Then that's going to make today more of a light day instead of a heavier, you know, really brutish day. So having it written out like that, sometimes it doesn't click with me as much, because, you know, seeing someone write out a workout, unless they're like, you know, your coach and they know all your ins and outs and they're, you know, making you something like that, I guess that's just a little bit of a different situation. But no, I'll add some in, right? Because it's, not the hardest thing to break down. Probably like max 4 movements, you know, X number of sets each, this sort of weight. But yeah, either way, definitely a little more lat focused for these last probably month and a half-ish or so. Because my biggest change I want to make in my back isn't necessarily like thickening it up, right? Like when I do a back lat spread or a back double bi shot, what I feel like I'm missing in the sense of what I want to work on is just, you know, getting wider, right? Kind of branching out my lats further downward and outward so that they really open up in a, you know, like a front flex, or like in a lat spread, there is no gap between like my forearms and, you know, like my outer lats. Like that's what I kind of want to see more of, you know. Trap wise, I think there's a point of diminishing returns with your traps, where if they get too big, then they kind of start taking over your shoulders, and instead of this like more wide kind of I was gonna say distinguished, you know, kind of look of just more like shoulder focused, it can turn into a little bit of like a brolic, like thicker neck kind of thing. Yeah, but that's, you know, that's for you to decide. But for me, I'm focusing a little more on the bottom outward quadrant of my back. So mainly pull downs, but certainly going to be some rows involved as well. So whatever I start with, I guess we'll just have to see, you know, once we get in there. But yeah, I think there's nothing else to discuss there. Let's just jump to movement number freaking 1. So here's my predicament. I've been doing earlier lifts, like earlier in the daytime, but then I haven't eaten as much food because it's earlier in the day. There's just not enough time to. So then if I have a nice late lift full of food, now I'm sweating like crazy just because I've got a full stomach. Eesh. But that's all right. So let's start with heavy pull downs first. You know, I'm not going to have like a 1 second hold, but these are just going to be difficult due to their heft. And then very similar approach to like my last arm day, I guess, or more like my last bicep day, is this is more so hard in the beginning in terms of hard, heavy, nasty sets. And then, you know, once that damage has already been done, right, it's like if somebody smacked you in the back, you know, full on freaking power, they wouldn't have to, I mean, they could barely flick you on that same spot. And it's already so tender, it's going to feel more intense. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, sometimes I like to open a lift hard and heavy, and then gradually get lighter and more squeezing as it goes on. Oh, okay. Holy crap. One more of those at least. Oh my goodness. All right, that was not cool. Spotify must have changed speaker knockers, or lonely, and that second, whoever was doing that second verse, like 45 seconds in, that was nuts. I was trying to forget about it and like still get that was so bad. I mean, I'm sorry if that's you. Okay, let's get real. Two. Okay, one more. Two. Okay. 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 Let's move on to something a little lighter and squeezing. Oh my God. This will be a good combo. And this is, I mean, even if I had every machine in the entire freaking world, there's nothing that exactly kind of mimics how this feels. Right? I'm talking bench, inclined, really just kind of to, keep myself from sliding forward. And then leaning into a real good lat stretch on top, in to a little more rowish kind of feeling at the bottom. Still lat focused, but instead of like that feeling of a pull down where you're pulling your arms down, it goes from that down into more of a back, if you kind of catch my gist, or catch my drift rather. And I'm really gonna have to squeeze these because this stack is not crazy heavy for a double arm movement. I mean, all right, come on. All right. Two. Okay. Oh, man, all right. Oh, goodness. A few more of those. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Two. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. I might come back to this because I really like this movement as a finisher, but I'm going to do something else in between. Because now I've done pretty much both styles of movements at their extremes. A really heavy ass set of pull downs, and I'm talking, more lat focused here, where the difficulty is just, even moving the weight in the first place. Contradicted now, or more like contrasted, with a lighter squeezing movement with a really emphasized hold and burn. So maybe the next set will just be a little in between Goldilocks decision. But I'll think about that once this set's over. All right. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to leave this setup here. Let's do something else. So I've done this movement before, but more in a rowing fashion. So what I've kind of set up here is both cables as high up as they can go. And actually, let me bring them down one notch. Not a lot, but just a touch. So rather than like a standard pulling operation, be it row or pull down, where your hands are the same distance apart the whole time, and that last set of like the 2 extra long D handles, that's a little better, or a little different because they actually do move side to side. But for something like this, the point, squeezing again, like nothing crazy heavy, but I like that I'm pulling towards my center line. Because rather than a regular pull down, even if there were 2 individual D handles and just going straight down, it's like the force is just so one directional. All I'm doing is pulling down. Whereas if I turn that angle out to here, then now I'm pulling down and in, And that's what I'm trying to think about all the time, is like kind of retracting my scapula. It's like your shoulder blades, they move in and out when you stretch like that. So having to stretch, pull them really far out and apart, and then in, it just kind of plays that a little better. Now I'm used to doing this extra low and doing like a row out of it. I haven't really tried a pull down like this, but after a feeler, this is going to be good. Probably 2 here. Okay. Oh, yeah, one more of those. Okay. Oh, man. Oh, okay. I think I've got an idea for the finisher. Probably only one more set's going to be necessary to get to what I want out of this lift. Which, again, that's kind of getting into what I was saying in the car, how, I'm not like always a crazy fan of like having everything written out before, because I want to judge it based on how it feels. If I feel like I've done enough, let's say maybe I only did 5 sets, I'm going to believe it, right? But if I know I've got more, I'm going to do more. And sometimes writing that out beforehand, it's a little tricky to predict. All right, so my plan was actually, my plan was going to be finish with this, but pre-exhaust with cable pullovers. But then it's like I got to do single arm and just, So instead, let's jump on to the legit pullover machine. 10, 15 reps or so, get a good burn, and just a solid pre-exhaust, and then come over and finish with those sort of like half pull down, half row combos. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh man. Holy shit. Oh, okay. Let's get these lights off. I have not been this drenched for a while. Okay. Yeah, so what was that? Was that 8? It was, I can't even remember. I'm going to have to look back at the freaking clips to actually add those up. But yeah, there is, I'm changing shirts. This thing is like, oof. I mean, I can wring this out and it's going to splash on the ground. I don't want to do it because then I'm going to have like a gross sweat spot, and I'm not walking around here every day with like a mop. This place doesn't get enough use to really warrant that kind of cleaning schedule. So I'm not going to make it dirtier just for my freaking self. But let's see how we're looking here. I guess it would make sense to start back from the back, right? Oh my goodness. Yeah, that is most certainly a back pump if I've ever freaking got one. Oh my god. Dude, it is freaking impossible to hold a vacuum right now. Oh, jeez. But yeah, very good late back day. Let's get in the car and get out of here. All right. So now I get to go home. Now I get to go freaking eat something. And frankly, I feel like a beast in the sense that I was really going after. Except for that one set. If you know what I'm talking about with that song, then you would get that's a deal breaker. That's like you got your liked tracks on shuffle, and you get hit with like that one song you only like in kind of a sort of silly way. Like, it's not really, exciting for a lift, But either way, that was good. And that's a good back and forth, I feel, especially from the last few back days, because for every, there's a certain percentage point, of a balance, but as far as I'm concerned, I feel like there's a good back and forth of, for every more heavy, just, a lot of weight, mechanical tension based lifts, or even sets, go by a set by set basis, there should be, a lighter squeezing one to kind of make up for it, right? And not only because of the fact that, I think you can definitely overdo it with too much heavy weight consistently, like your joints, your elbows, or whatever, but it's just good, man. It's a good change up. I don't want to limit my ability to exert, I was going to say force, but really just, my own kind of intensity during my sets only to like one specific style, of like extra crazy heavy ones, or being somebody who is, there's a lot of little, not fallacies, but kind of like stylistic choices of working out that people can kind of really resonate with. Like the idea that you should do one arm or one side at a time as often as possible, because then, you get to focus double on that one arm instead of having to split your focus between both. And then you're going to get much more effective sets, and you're going to blah, blah, blah. Like, or somebody could say the exact opposite and say you should always do both sides at once, because then that's going to promote symmetry, and it's going to keep your impulses to exert your muscular, and you're going to like, or no, man, come on, you got to do full body every workout, because then you're going to really train yourself to be able to activate everything all at once. And or like, you got to do functional training, because you're never going to do a curl in the real world. You're always going to be picking and it's this kind of strange reasoning, but it can make a lot of sense if it's explained well enough, and one more angle that makes it even more convincing is, people can be in pretty decent shape doing very different things. You could be just this CrossFit dude, clean and jerks, deadlifts, swing and pull-ups, completely different than a bodybuilder, and the guy can look crazy, So the way I look at it is, it's not that there's one specific way where, you finally ask ChatGPT 8 once it has all the human data of everybody alive, and, you say, what's the perfect workout routine? I doubt it's going to punch out like an 8-paragraph thing, and then that's really going to be the answer. What I'd say would be more likely, or what's a little more likely to be the actual kind of objective look at things, is it's going to depend on the individual, and beyond that individual's just genetic aptitude or the foods they grew up on and different kind of other factors that played a role in their upbringing, it's also going to be what they prefer. If someone told me a full week's workout, said I had to do it exactly their way, unless I somehow really liked it, I probably would just want to do it how I know that I like to do it, because that makes it more fun for me. The way I look at all this, it's not like this just daunting challenge of I need to put on as much muscle as possible. Anything that would get in the way, that is a complete distraction. Like, no, this is something I get to enjoy, and I do not ever want to compromise that. Like the idea that guys kind of they lose I'll see even like real seasoned bodybuilders, and when you have consistent competitions, I'm talking like every couple of months throughout the year, 4 years, that's a lot. That is a lot beyond just regular working out. I've only had to do the one prep, so I'm not like the guy to comment on it. But I see these guys like, I kind of lost the love for it. I just, haven't really been into it the last few months, or just, I do not want to be like that, right? Because this is my thing, I want to do it because I like it, and vice versa. I like it because I want to do it, So to kind of put that to the point that I'm trying to say is, as much as I'm trying to follow the kind of, let's say, correct, most optimal approach, because obviously I don't want to work out inefficiently, I don't want my workouts to do nothing. I want them to work. I want them to stimulate growth because I want to get bigger and I want gains from them. But, I'm not just going to blindly follow every little thing that I see on my phone that people are saying is the right thing to do, because I also have my own archive of evidence and just historical data of how all my workouts have worked out for me personally. First person experience of what I like, what works, what lets me go the hardest, what makes me stick to things the most. And I'd say that's just as valuable, if not more, than any training book or training logs from anybody else. And it's not a very fun or interesting answer when somebody asks you that, right? I mean, there's a lot of advice to be given and learned that isn't things that are I'd say, what do you think? 70% of working out has been basically discovered, right? Like the idea that you have to somehow figure out that cardio and calorie deficits and progressive overload work. We get that. Those are the basics that we should all be focusing on and implementing and making sure our workout frequency is good. But beyond that, it's what's your routine? What's your day like? When are you even going to be able to fit in the gym to your routine and be able to do it consistently? And that's where it's not a cookie cutter response. You can't just read a workout plan or a day schedule that someone set out, because it wasn't set out for you. It might have been set out for the general public so that people could maybe kind of resonate it and want to do it or whatever, but it's not you specifically. And that's where how do I get a better routine? To say figure it out is wrong, right? That's just not even advice at all. But you got to take it a little step further and what have you tried? Have you tried anything that's worked or has not worked? Because I think that's the real secret. Being able to add or subtract things from your routine, be it more volume, less volume, different frequency, actually counting your calories, weighing yourself on the scale, making sure your fluid intake is... I think those are the core components of the changes that you should make to your routine. Because at best, you start counting your calories and you say, holy crap, I was not eating enough. Now I actually am eating enough and I'm recovering and I'm getting stronger and I'm gaining weight. This is sweet. Or, let's say you decide, okay, I want to increase my volume. I want to decrease my volume. Ooh, that really didn't do anything. Okay, everything else stay the same? Okay. And just, treat it like your own kind of experiment. Change a variable, stick to that situation consistently for a period, and see what happens, The problem is, it takes weeks, sometimes months even. And that's kind of a long time to, try something that's kind of uncertain. It's much easier to say, what's the right way to do it? Sweet! So, I think that's where the lifters who separate themselves from the majority are the guys who really just take their own training into their own hands and find out what works better for them, and that's just kind of something to be learned over time. And that's the fun of it, man. You don't play a video game and have a crazy amount of fun in creative mode where you just get to skip to the end and everything's whatever, right? I think that's part of the kind of, I don't want to say beauty, but just enjoyment of working out. If you're going to do it for years and really stick to it, is you're going to get better at it over time. And assuming that you actually implement that knowledge and that experience, you're going to get better results over time. And those results are going to get easier to get because you're going to be able to optimize your routine, to your own preferences, where it doesn't feel like work anymore, and it just feels like something that you get to do. That's what I want. If I can summarize, if I wanted to describe a goal of how I want my training to be, I want it to boil down to something that I get to do every day. To have to feel like it's something I have to do, it's like on a to-do list, it's like a chore, not awesome, right? So that's kind of my thoughts there. But either way, I gotta get this dirty ass shit off me. Shower off, eat a big ass bowl of rice and ground beef, and then I'll be ready for bed. Morning weight unknown, but closing in on 270. Now, whatever. I'm just trying to, get as much muscle as I can in this period of time without getting too soft. But 270 is a cool number, so I'll keep you updated. But yeah, I think nothing else to say. I'll see you tomorrow for arms.